Hi, my name is Mark, and in this video I'm going to show you the application that I have built during this module. The name of my application is Result Rush application. This is a web application for setting SMART goals. The abbreviation SMART means that each goal should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time limited. And what is the background of this idea? Why did I choose this idea for my application? Being a foreign student, I know that people like me, we have to combine many different things at the same time. We have to study, some of us has to work, we have personal life, and sometimes we want to have fun, travel around the country, for example. And sometimes it may be really difficult to be focused on your goals and not stray from your path. And so I wanted to help people to achieve their life goals. That's why I wanted to create this application. Technologies that I used in this app. So my application consists of 3 different layers. This is this is presentation layer. This layer is created using the Angular framework. The application layer is written using the Spring Boot framework, and data layer. It's just a PostgreSQL. So functional requirements of my application. My application has 2 actors, anonymous user and user. Anonymous user can do only one thing. He can just register in the system, and user can create a goal, edit a goal, delete a goal, log into the system, log out from the system, and also he can create goal categories, he can create goal priorities, and create goal milestones. So sometimes it may be really useful to split your big goal into multiple milestones, like smaller steps that you need to achieve in order to complete your goal. So now I want to show you how my application looks and works. So the first thing that user can see when he visits my website is a login page. So let's try to register. And after user creates an account, he can see the main page of the app. The main page has few sections. The first section is header section. It has settings menu and also has button that allows hide and show sidebar menu. Then we can see category section. This section will display all the categories that we have in the account. Then we can see goal table. Here, user will be able to see here all the goals that he created in the app. So let's try to create our first goal. So when user clicks on the create a new goal button, he can see this window. The only one field is required, which is goal title or goal name. Also, he can specify category, priority, and select a deadline for his goal. Then he should click Save button. And after this, we can see that our goal appeared in the goal table, and also statistics in the goals in the category section was updated. Now we can see that our default category has 1 goal. So what else we can do? We can create our own categories. Let's create our first category. Also, we can choose color for our category. Then we click Save button, and again, we can see that this category appeared nearby our default category, and this category has 0 goals, which is correct. And then now let's try to create our own priority. Then we click Save button. What now we can do? What can we do now? We can just update our goal. Now we can select our category, and then we can select our priority. Then we click Save button. Now we can see that our goal has title, category, priority, deadline. And now let's try to create goal milestones. To do this, we need to click on the goal title. Then we can see new page. This page gives again details about the goal. We can create our custom description for our goal. Like we can describe why this goal is important for us, for example, and why do we want to achieve this. And also we can create milestones. So let's create a few milestones. So we can see that the progress for our goal is 0%. And the logic in my app is the goal is considered completed only when all its sub-goals are completed. So now we have two sub-goals, two milestones, and both of them are in progress. So that's why the progress is 0%. But if we complete one milestone, we can see that the progress is 50% now. If we complete another milestone, the progress will be 100. And if we go back to the main page, we can see that our goal is completed. And also statistics in the category section is updated as well. So we have one goal in the self-development category, and this goal is completed. So that's why progress for this category is 100%. But if we create new goal, and assign self-development category, and then we click Save button. So now the progress will be 50% because we have in the category two goals, and one of them completed, one of them is not completed. So the progress is 50%. And of course, the user can delete any data in the app. Let's try to remove our category, for example. We need to go to the settings menu, category settings, remove category, and then we can see this confirmation window. We need to confirm that we want to delete this goal. And goals that used this category now have no category. And the last thing that we can do, we can just log out from the system. And if we create new account, then we can see that this account, of course, is empty. It's a different user. He has his own data. He has his own categories, priorities, goals. Every single account has its own data. So now I want to show you the code of my application. And I want to start with application layer, which is Spring Boot. So I want to show you the most important packages and classes in my app. So let's start with controller package. Controller package has controller classes that are responsible for accepting requests from my presentation layer. So basically, they just define some URL addresses, some paths that presentation layer can invoke. So we accepted requests from our presentation layer. Now we want to implement our business logic. So we go to our service class. Okay, service classes, they just implement the whole business logic of the application. They interact with database. They check if identifier really, if past identifier exists in database, etc. And then we have repository classes. Repository classes, they are responsible for interacting with database. My repository classes, they extends GPA repository interface. And GPA repository provides implementation for most of basics SQL queries. Like for example, if I want to create object in my database, if I want to delete object in my database, if I want to select object from my database, I don't need to write any SQL queries. GPA and Hibernate will do this automatically. So that's why basically we cannot see any SQL language here. But if we want to write some custom SQL queries that are not covered by GPA repository, we can do this by ourselves. We also have entity classes. So entity classes, they represent the business model of our application. So I have category entity, goal entity, milestone entity, priority entity, and user entity. To create an entity class, I need to provide, I need to specify annotation for this class. We can see here entity. Also, we can specify like relationship between classes. That class category have user, and this relationship is many to one. So many categories may have only one user. And also we can specify that this field cannot be nullable. So any category in my app must have a user. What else? Also, I have like authentication and authorization of users in my app, and I implemented this using using Spring Security framework. So how Spring Security works? If the application does not provide any protection and its API publicly available, then all incoming requests will be sent to dispatcher servlet class of Spring Boot. And this dispatcher servlet class determines which controller should respond to this request. So after adding Spring Security to dispatcher servlet, the dispatcher servlet becomes protected, and only like requests that can pass filters can reach it. So what I did, I created my own filters. We can see it here. So we can see an example here. This is web security config, and in this method I can specify which filter I add to my app and how my authorization works. So we can see that if request matching login page or register page, then we permit all users to have access to this endpoints. But any other request should be authenticated. Let's imagine the user wanna log into our application. He sends his username and his password to our app. And then when we receive his data, we check if his password and username correct. And if they are correct, we send and if they are correct, I send token as response to his request. And so user can store this token in his browser, and any other requests that he will send after will contain this token, and Java can validate this token and say if token is correct or not. And even though I can store some useful information about token, like I can store username, user ID, and so every time I have this token in my app, in my application layer, I know who is the user and what data I need to send him. And I would say that the main advantage of JSON Web Token is that this token doesn't store any sensitive user information. Like it doesn't store user's password. So user's password cannot be stolen. And also this token, they can be limited in time. So we can give this token, we can limit this token by 1 week or 1 month. And after this token will be expired and it will not be possible to use this token to access my app, to access my application. And one more security feature is that all users' passwords are encrypted when they saved to database. And I can show you in my database how password looks like. So that was my application layer. So it has controller classes that are responsible for accepting user requests. It has service classes that implement all the business logic. It has repository classes which are responsible for interacting with database. Application layer has some security features like uh, Spring Security and JSON Web Token, and also application layer encrypt all the user's password. Now I want to show you my presentation layer. So my presentation layer is a Angular framework. Angular framework use TypeScript language, and for create my user interface, I used concept of components. So it means that the whole page, the whole application, web application, should be split into smaller components. So in the project here, we can see components folder. Each component has 3 files. This is CSS file, HTML file, and TypeScript file. TypeScript file just basically stores the data related to this component. And also I used smart and dump component pattern. And what's the idea of this pattern? The idea of this pattern is that we should split our components into 2 categories, smart and dump. And smart components should be able to interact with services and should be able to retrieve data from the application layer. But dump components, they are only responsible for displaying data to the user. And in my app, I has, for example, I have main page component, and this component is smart component because this component knows how to retrieve data. And we can see it here. So this component retrieve data from services, and services in their turn, they interact with my application layer. So the idea is that smart component knows how to retrieve data, and then the smart component can send this data to the dump components. And how it works. So let's open some dump component. Let's say we want to open categories component. And in Angular, it works like this. We define some input. So we define some method that can accept data from the smart component. And then we assign this to our own field. So dump component doesn't invoke any service. It just retrieves data and display this for the user. And as I said earlier, I have service package. Services, they are responsible for sending requests to the application layer. So we can open like our common service, and this is generic class. This generic class knows how to interact with my application layer. So in this case, this method sends post request, patch request for update, delete request for delete, get request for find entity by ID, etc. What else? Also, I have interceptor class in my presentation layer, because since we receive token from the server, we need to add and store this token in the user's browser, and then add this token to each request that we send to the server. And that's what this method does. It checks if local storage has token key, and if local storage has token key, we add header to our HTTP request. And then we can check response from the server. And if we got an error, we can check what kind of error. And if user is unauthorized, we can redirect him to login page. So that's my presentation layer. And again, to summarize, my presentation layer has components, has dump component and smart components. Smart components, they know how to retrieve data from the server. And dump components, they are only responsible for displaying data for the user. it has service classes. Service classes, they are responsible for actually sending requests to the server. And I have interceptor class, which is responsible for adding token to each request. Okay, and the last thing that I want to show you is my database. I created a trigger for my database, and I want to explain why. According to my application logic, goal is considered completed only when its sub-goals, only when all of its sub-goals milestones are completed. And how could I implement this? I could check every time when goal is extracted from database if all of its sub goals are completed. So in this case I had to join two tables and check if all of these sub goals milestones are completed. But I thought that it's not the best solution because it's not so efficient to join tables. Like every time I need to request, I need to receive goal. I mean, like, if every time I need to receive goal from my database, I need to join another table, and I thought it's not the best solution. So what I did, I just create a trigger that update goals status every time any milestone created, updated, or deleted from the database. And that's how it works. I want to show you an example. So we have a goal at the moment in our database, and the goal has status in progress. But let's try to create a milestone. Now we can see that the goal is still has status in progress. But if I change status of its milestone, and I will set status complete, and then I select our goal, I can see that the status is complete as well. So I didn't have to join any tables. I just could get this goal from my database, and I could see the actual correct status. So that was my project. I tried to explain most important parts, most important design solutions of this project. Thank you so much for your attention. Bye bye.